Okay, we're back to Mishlei, and I just looked at the calendar and I realized, so let's see, hold on, let me get the calendar. Why is my mouse, where did my mouse go? Oh, here we go. Calendar is like this. So we have scheduled, I mean, I don't know exactly when we'll stop, but one, two, three, four, five, six, probably 6 Mondays left. And we have including tonight, we have five pasukim left in the chapter. So seems like we're going to finish the chapter, barring any unforeseen circumstances. So not that finishing the chapter is like a goal, but it would be a nice like place to like conclude for the year. So we'll keep you updated about that. Okay, so I mentioned in the teaser for the shiur, this is a pasuk that I actually taught this year to my high school class. Like a few months ago. So it is still too fresh in my mind. I'm going to try my best to see it through with fresh eyes, but I'm going to kind of count on you. I always count on you for this, but I'll count on you more than usual for like, bringing a fresh perspective to the table. Okay. Holech es chachamim yechkam v'roek silim yeroa. Okay. Now, before we even translate it, you'll notice that there are brackets and parentheses. So I'm just going to go over this again because I don't think we've had a pasuk like this in a while. So in the Torah Shebechsav, in the written Torah, then there is from time to time something that we call a kri ksiv. Okay, ksiv means that which is written. Kri means that which is read. And what this refers to is a time when the traditional text of the Tanakh as it's written is not supposed to be read that way. We have a Torah Sheba'al Peh, we have an oral tradition that you're supposed to read it differently. Okay. Usually what that means is that the letters or the vowels are different. Sometimes it's a completely different word. And according to the Rביno, there are 3 reasons why there are kriksivs in Nach, okay, which is what we're doing right now. One is if even though we are very, very careful with the transmission of the written text, human beings make errors, so it is possible for errors to creep into the manuscripts. And what they would do is at the time of Ezra and Anshe Knesset Hagedolah, they standardize all of the texts, but they were confronted, like they collected all the Sefer Torah, the most authoritative Sefer Torah, and and scrolls, and they had to like make these decisions about which one is the correct reading. So they went with the majority of them, and they used that as the authoritative one, but they preserved the minority version. Okay, so that's one case of kriksiv where we read it according to the majority version, but the way it's written is still according to the minority version. Okay, that's one case. Second case, according to the Rביno, is when it was written like that intentionally in order to convey a certain idea. So the one that we're most familiar with is we all know that when you see the name Yud K Vav K, that's written with Yud K and Vav K, but you don't pronounce it that way. And that's because there's an idea there that we can't say the name of God as it's written, except in certain contexts, or we pronounce it, it means God's essence, but we pronounce it as my Lord because we can only know God through his mastery of of his rulership. So there are certain ideas there. Or, for example, many times in the Torah, it will use a euphemism, like when it says in the klalos and the curses, that we're going to be conquered by enemies, and it says another man will take your wife, and the written text says yishgalena, but we read it as yishkavena. And according to the Ramban, yishgalena is like a very coarse, violent term for sexual assault, but we read it as yishkavena, which means he will lie with her, which is like a euphemistic way to say it. So that's case number 2. So case number 1 is a defect in the manuscript. Case number 2 is trying to convey an idea. And in case number 3, a little bit controversial, the Rביno says that in order to be a navi, you have to have certain intellectual and emotional perfections, but proper spelling and grammar is not one of them. And he holds that that there were Nevi'im who made grammatical mistakes in their writing. So they wrote it as they formulated it. But when Ezra and the Anshe Knesset Hagedolah came back and like canonized everything, then they edited it for grammar, but they kept the original way it was spelled in case it was in category number 2. Okay, so the approach that Rבינו Yona takes when you see this in Mishlei is he will interpret it according to both meanings. So I want to just like have us be aware that there are like two ways to read our pasuk. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we usually do is translate it according to the way it's supposed to be read, and then we can go back and fill in the way it's written. Okay. Who wants to try to translate this? And you'll see here there are two translations, like two main translations here. Okay, or maybe actually, I don't even know if I want to, maybe what I'll do is like this. I'm just going to simplify it. I'm just going to do one translation. I'll use slashes here. Okay, so who wants to translate? Holech es chachamim yachkam v'roek silim yeroa.
Those who walk with chachamim or walking before chachamim or
one who walks with the wise. Okay, with chachamim s. Okay, yachkam.
They will be wise.
Yeah,
and they will be wise.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it singular because I know you're saying they, but I don't know if you're using the modern they, the genderless modern they, but this is he will become wise. So one who walks with the wise will become wise. V'roek silim yeroa.
I don't know.
Okay, anyone know roe?
Oh, to see. Oh no, I'm sorry.
To shepherd.
Okay, so one meaning is to shepherd, and that's like, Hashem ro'i lo achsar, Hashem is my shepherd, I will not lack. The other translation is to associate with, okay, like v'hafta l're'acha kamocha, you should love your friend or your fellow like yourself, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and actually use that as the second, I'm going to reverse the order here. So one who walks with the wise will become wise, but one who befriends ksilim, okay, mishlei fools, I'm going to go ahead and say chachamim. Yeah, and how would you translate yeroa? You're gonna get it wrong, but how would you translate it?
Oh, I don't know. Yeroa, is it?
You want to guess?
Tense, right?
What was that? Ariel, what did you say?
It's future tense with the yud, right?
Yeah.
And...
I just had a question. I was wondering why you're putting befriends instead of associated. I thought that's what we said.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right. Associated with, yeah. Yeah. So Yeroa,
and bad will happen to him.
Okay, so that is the wrong answer that I thought you were gonna give. Okay. I think it's very easy to think that it means that it's from like the lashon of ra, of bad, right? So turns out everyone except Rav Hirsch, okay, translates it as ra'ah, from breaking, okay, which is a word, not the most common word, but to break or to be shattered. Okay.
What does Rav Hirsch say?
Rav Hirsch, we'll see Rav Hirsch in a little while. So one who associates with ksilim will be broken. Okay, so this is one translation. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna translation number 2 of Greek. You know what? I'm just gonna simplify this. Okay, hold on just a second here. Let's just go like this. Translation 1, translation 2, and then we'll do translation 3, which is the ksiv. Okay. All right. So the other way to translate it is holech es chachamim yachkam, one who follows chachamim, okay, the wise, will become wise, but one who, so the other way is shepherds, okay, which can mean to, so the primary meaning is to lead sheep, but it could also mean to lead a flock figuratively, of people, so like a ruler or a teacher or a community leader. Okay, so one who leads ksilim, mishlei fools, will be broken. Okay, now the ksiv, I think, just does not make sense. So haloch es chachamim, I don't exactly even know how that would be translated, but I guess one who is walked by chachamim. I don't know if that's even right. Like haloch is like, I'm not even sure how to translate that. Okay, yechkam will become wise. Sorry, v'chacham, one who's walked by chachamim, and chacham. It just doesn't even grammatically make sense. But one who, and then you could, you could translate the rest the other two ways. Okay, yeah. So I don't even know what that is, and for our purposes, we could ignore that. These two translations are going to be the main ones. Okay, so let me actually just put these translations into the chat for a second. Okay. Okay, so that takes care of that. Then we have hold on, Matsuda ציון says Yeroa is inyan shavira urutzitza. Okay, that Yeroa means to be broken and shattered. Okay, shattered is actually probably a better translation. Actually, let me go ahead and say shattered. I'll say broken and shattered because he does say both. Okay, so that's the Matsudas. Targum says Dimahalak imcha kime nischakam, one who walks with the wise becomes wise. V'dimachabar lasachle nivash le. Okay. So ba'ash means to become smelly or putrid or rotten. Okay. So he's translating the second half as but one who befriends. So he says chaber, like he becomes a chaber too. Who befriends fools, nivashle, will become rotten or spoiled. Actually, spoiled has a different connotation in English. Like smelly or putrid by them. Okay. And then the Malbim says is ro'eh is from hischabrus, is like befriending, and yeroa is shever. Okay, is it broken? Okay, so that's pretty much the same. There's no sadi going on this one. Okay, and then let's look at our English translations. One who walks with the wise will grow wise, but the companion of fools will be broken. Okay, so that's companion. Yeah, I think companion is a nice in between of associating with and befriending. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and delete this because it's similar. So Rav Hirsch says, he who goes with the wise becomes wiser, but by association with fools, one becomes worse. So he does seem to take it as Yeroa, as becoming worse. Okay, but that's like in the minority. And then Alter says, who walks with the wise gets wisdom, but who chases fools is crushed. Okay, so crushed is another type of thing with broken. Okay, so let me just go ahead and paste these two as well, in case you want those. Okay. So what are the questions and problems? Yeah, Isaiah?
How is being crushed like the opposite of becoming wise?
Yeah, okay, good. So how is being broken, shattered, crushed the opposite of becoming wise? Rivki?
Yeah, specifically on translation 2,
Mhm.
like what's like the deal with the first half where it's someone that's following as opposed to the second half where it seems like someone is leading? Like
Okay.
I feel like it would be the same.
Okay, right. So according to translation 2, why is the first half talking about following and the second leading? About leading. Okay, Ayala?
So how does this work? Like, what are the mechanisms that causes the person who walks with the chachamim to become
Okay.
wise, or the one who walks with the ksilim,
So
or associates?
What is the cause and effect? What is the mechanism? How does this work? Okay. Yep, my dad is next.
Actually, that was my same
Okay.
comment.
Rivki?
What's the connotation of like walking?
Yeah, okay, good. So what is the meaning or connotation of walking in this context? And then I guess we can say, actually, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just put both translations in here. I'm gonna say of holech, and we'll say walking. Actually, you know what? I think for following, I think maybe a better translation would be one who walks after chachamim. Okay, like that would be the more literal one. So walking or walking after in this context. Like so just to elaborate on that, like does this mean literally, walking with or is there's something more implied by that. Yeah. Okay. I didn't see if next question.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always have this question about, there are different kinds of fools. And
Right.
the specific characteristics of certain kind of fools. I always ask is, does that apply in this situation?
Okay, right. So so let's say here, okay, so let's put it this way. What is the definition of ksil? Okay, Mishlei fool in this context. Okay, is this being used in a technical way? And if so, why? Let's go like this. If so, why? Or is this being used in a generic sense, and it can apply to any type of Mishlei fool? Yeah.
What's the difference between, well, I guess my question's coming from the difference in the first translation and the second translation in terms of like one who walks with and one who walks after.
Yeah.
What's the difference in the two, and will I guess what's the difference in the two, like practically?
Yeah.
And
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and treat that as included in Ayala's question, or Ayala's question, Rivki's question. I forgot who asked the question now. What's the Rivki's question about walking or walking after? Yeah. So I'm asking on both of them. Yeah, Ayala.
So what does Yeroa mean? And specifically if it means broken or shattered, like what exactly will break?
Okay. Yeah. So let's actually move that to the proper place in the pasuk. Okay, what does it mean to be broken or shattered? I'm gonna go ahead and leave out crushed in this context. And what did you say after that?
Just that, like, and
Okay.
what does Yeroa mean if it means the other things?
Right, okay. Yeah, Isaiah.
Oh, the breaking / shattering.
Yeah.
Is it done by the Xelim? Is it done by this guy?
Okay. Yeah.
Those are the options.
So
I guess
so-
other people.
yeah, let's just say here. I'm gonna just tack that onto this question. How and how does it come about? Actually, I'll put this in. I'll keep it the same question. Let's do different sentences. How does it come about? Who does it? Yeah. Okay. I feel like there are some questions here that we have that are just other definition or partner questions to what we've already said. So, what is the definition of chacham in this context? And is this being used in a technical way? And if so, why? Or is this being used in a generic sense and would really apply to all positive, like all, I guess, like, good guys in Mishlei? Okay, just to explain on this question, in Mishlei has lots of technical jargony terms for all of its archetypes, and sometimes those terms are being used because it's specifically like a chacham and not a navon, not a person of understanding or not a tzaddik. Sometimes chacham just means like the person who is the good decision maker in this context. Okay, so there's that. Yeah, what else? Yeah, Ayala.
This is a minor question and maybe grammatical, but why are chachamim and kselim both plural?
Okay, sure. I will ask that. And I'll put that as a stylistic question. Why are chachamim and kselim plural? Right. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna actually, I think that is more than a stylistic question. Okay, does this mean that does this imply that this phenomenon would not play out if you with a single chacham or ksil? Or is the use of the plural stylistic? Yeah. Idea?
Not sure if we asked like what sort of associating are we talking
That's
about?
the question that is the partner question to number 4. So what is the meaning or connotation of ro'eh? Okay, association or lead. Associate with or lead. Okay, what type of what type or level of association? What like leadership in what capacity? Yeah. I want to add a question to how does this happen? Where do we say that? What's cause and effect? So how does this work? I also want to ask like I don't specifically mean how long does this take, but like what is the developmental, what does the developmental timeline look like? What does the developmental timeline look like? In other words, is it just like you get incremental gains, or is it that like, it influences your direction and then that is results in the changes? Like it's part of the same question though. Guys, yeah?
If one were to be holy ksilim, would that be
Okay.
worse
That's a good
than
question.
Gerua? Would that be better? Like,
Okay,
would
I
it do
like that.
nothing?
Okay, so what is the relationship between holech, holech and ro'eh? What what would Shlomo say if you were holech with ksilim and ro'eh with chachamim? Yeah, Avital?
I'm not sure if this is part of a different one, but in terms of the leading Ksilim, like, does it matter where you're leading them?
Okay, yeah, I will add that to the leadership question.
Like, it almost seems like there could be like no hope
Yeah, doesn't matter where you're leading
for
them.
them.
Yeah, actually, you know what? That raises another question, which is, this is kind of like an application question, but actually, no, let's do that. Okay, what is the what decision making scenario is this talking about? Okay, and then what if you are in a situation where you must associate with or lead ksilim? Okay, like is that hopeless? What about all the Nevi'im and leaders in Jewish history? Okay, like they had to do this, presumably. Yeah, Rivki.
So this might be included in the decision-making scenario, but are both halves like intentional, like the walking with Chachamim and then also
Okay.
the
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna actually put that into one of our standard questions, which is what is the practical application here? And to what extent is the phenomenon pointed out in the pasuk dependent on intentionality? And to what extent is it an automatic result? Okay, I'm just going, since I just saw David get on, I'm just going to recopy and paste the translations. And then I think we got all the questions. I mean, we'll ask also who is the intended audience? Who is the intended audience? And I'm going to say, like, is this limited to, people who are susceptible to these, susceptible to these, that's not how you spell it, susceptible to these types of influences? Or is the pasuk telling us that everyone is subject to this type of influence? Okay, so let's copy and paste the questions. There's 1 through 6. And then here is See if we can get the rest. No, we got to do 3 tries. Okay, so just change all the numbers as I usually do. 10, 11, 12, and then 13. Oh, you know what I'm going to do also? I'm just going to add this, even though I don't know. I don't think we're going to answer this. Can we make sense of the grammatically incorrect pre-ksiv duality? Okay. And I say grammatically incorrect because I don't even think it's a sentence. But so this to me, like, definitely seems like one of these cases where it was just a defective manuscript. But you know, who am I to say? Okay, let's take our minute and think about this. And yeah.
Sorry, extra question. I don't see if anybody asked this. Are we taking this as a yesh pasuk or we're taking this as an always?
That's a good question. Let's say I'll tack that onto 13. Okay, and is this like intended to be an absolute statement, i.e., you know, this reliably happens, or is this one of those cases where it's an improbable, I mean, like it's you know, it's not statistically probable, but it's you know, but there's a chance of it happening. Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. And I'll tell you right away, just in terms of methodology here, I think there is an obvious interpretation of this. So there's no shame in getting the obvious interpretation out of the way. But then once you like get that out of the way, then see if you could look for you know, for non-obvious ones. Okay, Ariel, you're up. And also tell me if you are taking a stance, which translation you're going to attempt to explain.
Oh yeah, well I'll do the obvious one first.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's the first one.
Okay.
The first one's a little more obvious, but I would say that like I think the interpretation could be that like, you know, like basically people who you hang out with, you know, kind of affect who you are.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's like the most obvious interpretation for the pasuk. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. All right. So let's take that and expand on it. So people who you hang out with will affect who you are. Okay. And Ayala, what am I going to quote?
Deos chapter Vav.
Yep. Okay. So the Hilchos Deos chapter Vav. So there are 2 mitzvos. Two mitzvos that I'm introducing it in a different way. I'm just switching off a little bit. 2 mitzvos that are important about learning. Okay, there's the one that we're familiar with that we talk about a lot, which is Vishinan Tam Levanecha, to learn Torah and to teach it. Lilmo Torah Ulalamda. Rambam casts that as mitzvah number 11. Okay, then there's another mitzvah that says Ledavka Bo, to cling to God. Okay, and in fact, I actually didn't put the source here. Let me actually just show you where this is. So if you look, okay, I know that Hasidus popularized the concept of dvekus, okay, of clinging to God, okay, but there's a Hasidic idea of dvekus, and then there's Chazal's idea of dvekus. Because what's Chazal's idea of dvekus? So the Rambam, the Sefer Mitzvot says, actually, you know what I want to do? Hold on, I don't want to read it from there. I want to read it from, I think this is going to be a better translation. Let me see if it's here. No, okay, I'll use this one. He shitzivanu lihischaber im hachachamim ulihisyached imahem. I'm gonna read. No, hold on a second. The reason why I'm hesitant on this is Rambam wrote the Sefer Mitzvos in Arabic, Judeo-Arabic, and so therefore there are different Hebrew translations, and I want to use the one I'm familiar with. So the Kafach says, so this is the commandment to mingle with the wise, and to befriend them or to associate with them, and to be constant and to like sit with them, and to join with them in every manner of partnership. Eating and drinking and doing business with them. Okay, why? So that you should reach a level where you resemble them in their actions, and to believe in the true ideas from their words. Okay, so what does that have to do with clinging to God? Excuse me. So he says, "V'hu amru yisale." This is what is meant when the Torah says "uladavka kabo," cling to him. This is repeated elsewhere. It says cling to him. Uva pirush, and the oral Torah explains "uladavka kabo," cling to him. Hidavik b'chachamim b'talmidehem, cling to the wise and to their disciples. Zehu lashon hasifri. That is where it says in the Sifri, which is a work of Torah's well packed. They also bring a proof from here that you have an obligation to marry the daughter of a Torah scholar or a scholar of the wise, ulahasi bitul tamid chachamim, and to marry your daughter off to the scholar of the wise, ulahanos tamid chachamim, and to benefit tamid chachamim, ulhis asek imam, and to be involved with them, mima shenemar uvosidbak, from what is said, cling to God. Now here's the line I wanted to get to. Amru, the sages said, v'chi efchar lo la'adam lihidavik b'shchina. So the pasuk says you should cling to God, and the Chachamim say, is it possible to cling to the divine presence? V'haksiv, it's written in the Torah, ki Hashem elokacha eish ochlahu, Hashem is a consuming fire. Ella, rather, what does it mean? Kol hanose bas tamid chachamim v'chule. Rather, it means anyone who marries the daughter of a tamid chachamim, or anyone who does business with him, or anyone who eats and drinks with him, etc. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make here is, let me read the actual halacha in the Mishnah Torah. So he says, "Derech riyaso shel adam lios nimshach b'de'osov uv'masav achar re'av v'chaverav." Man by nature is drawn after the character traits and actions of his associates and friends. V'noheg b'minhag anshe meninaso, and behaves like the members of society. Lefikach, therefore, tzarich adam lihischaber l'tzadikim v'leishiv etzel hachachamim tamid. Therefore, a person must become friends with the tzaddikim and sit with the chachamim in order to learn from their actions. And he should distance himself from the wicked who walk in darkness, so that that he does not learn from their actions. So this is one of the rare cases where you get a Rambam commentary on Mishlei. Okay, he quotes our pasuk. The Omer, and it also says in Tehillim 1:1, Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach b'asas rishayim u'v'derech hatam l'amad u'v'moshav l'tim lo yashav. Happy/fortunate is the person who happy/praiseworthy is the person who does not follow the counsel of the wicked and doesn't stand on the path of sinners and doesn't sit in the session of scorners. So the reason why I'm presenting this with these two mitzvos is there are two types of learning that you should do from chachamim. Okay, there's learning Torah from them, and that's an intellectual level. Okay, that's the obvious one. But in addition to learning Torah from them, you should also associate with them in all the ways that you can, so that you learn from their actions, and so that you pick up on ideas and follow their ideas. And I'm saying that these are two mitzvos because they are two modes of learning. We don't just learn from the words of people. We learn from seeing their actions and seeing Torah embodied in them. Like I remember when I forgot if this was at Rabbi Moskowitz's at the eulogies that were given. No, this must have been like at the event that we had like afterwards, either in the Shloshim or like his yahrzeit. And I don't even remember who said this. I don't know if it was Rabbi Chait. Someone said basically that like, Rabbi Moskowitz like is a walking embodiment of Mishlei. Like you can see him and interact with him, and like you absorb the Mishlei through osmosis. And so it's an important thing to do. And according to this, I think you can answer the question: why does it use the word walking with? What would you say? Again, we're building off the obvious idea, but we have to bring out the chiddush here.
Like you're following them in like every circumstance, like you're not
So that
doing
would be the second translation, right? That's following them. That's walking after. This is walking with.
like from
Say again?
learning from.
Okay, but why walking though? Like it could just say one who learns from the chachamim, you know? Yariel?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like walking with kind of like puts you on an equal footing with them in a sense. Like that, like you're friends with them. Like you may
Okay.
feel that, yeah.
Yeah, no, so that actually works out in terms of contrasting it with the following after, because the following after is a subordinate role, you know. I think the best shot from what we just read in the halacha is like this. The reason why it, oh yeah, Ayala, what do you want to say?
I was just gonna say maybe it's like being in like an everyday interaction with them, and like walking is like a common random thing,
Okay,
and
yeah.
that's how you'll get it.
Okay, so yeah, I think I'm saying the same thing, but I'm just gonna say it in slightly different language. The reason why it uses walking with is because it is a very low bar of interaction, okay, which nevertheless yields these huge benefits. Okay, in other words, merely walking with the chachamim, okay, not even like talking with them or befriending them will over time cause you to become more wise, okay? Whether because you pick up on their actions and emulate their character traits, or because you pick up on their ideas that you hear them say, or because seeing the lifestyle of Chokhmah and Torah embodied in a physical, real person makes those ideas real to you and shows you how these abstract principles can be applied. You know, like it's one thing. This is why we always try to go with the real world examples, because seeing how it actually hearing an idea is one thing, but seeing how it plays out in real life is another thing. Two examples that I always think of when I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but like one time when I was a dorm counselor, then we needed a new bunk bed in the dorm, and so I went with Rav Pesach to a furniture store and went like furniture shopping. And I remember it was such an interesting experience, like going furniture shopping with my Rebbe, and watching him like picking out the furniture and like interacting with people. And I don't remember the things I learned. I just remember it made an impact on me. And similarly with Rabbi Moskowitz, it was always very interesting. Like the times I would go, like, let's say to coffee or tea with him and like see him interacting with like the barista or something like that, just seeing how these people interact with other people, you get to see Torah in action in the particulars. Yariel, you want to add to your idea?
Yeah, I just want to add like one point is that but like people may think that this isn't like a significant thing.
Yeah.
Just walking with them or like just watching them or being within their presence, because like it doesn't really feel like you're getting anything out of it, because it's not like you're toiling in Gemara and like the stress of figuring out is like very this is more like passive, so it and it's very subtle too, like it's subtle, and it could be it could be great, and it could also be a danger. I mean, like the danger is if you're hanging out with people who are negative influence, and like you may not necessarily hang out with them a lot, but just by like observing them, it may affect you. And so, same thing with the
Okay, yeah. So we need to be told this for Chachamim because we're prone to feeling that this minimal level of interaction isn't going to be so beneficial. Okay, and then let's just go with the what level do you think what do you think ro'eh of association means? Like what is he telling us here? And would you say that associating is a closer relationship or an even more minimal relationship?
Minimal.
Yeah, I think it's even more minimal, right? And then so I'm going to say here, this is even more true for fools. Okay, merely associating with them, okay, on any level, puts you at risk to be influenced by them. Okay. And why would you say, this is a question for anyone, but like, why would you say that that it's a greater danger for fools than for chachamim? I mean, I think it's an obvious answer also, but I think we should state it. Like, why is it that like, you know, Shlomo's warning you, he's telling you walk with chachamim, but saying don't even associate with fools. Like, it's much worse. Well, why is it worse with fools?
Oh, I have an answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's because, human nature, like we would tend to go that way more.
Right. Because we're already predisposed to emulate them. You know, and you know, they are living a lifestyle that like appeals to our desire for immediate pleasure.
Right.
And fantasies. Okay. So it's a greater trap.
Yeah. Can I take this idea a little bit further?
Sure.
Like beyond what it's saying?
Yeah.
I would even argue that yeah, this idea is like the paradigm, but I would also say that even if you're not necessarily like see them or physically or with them, I would even say that even if you're like learning about them, if you're learning their books or their chachma or their ways, just through reading or really like watching a documentary about someone, I still think I still think that could impact you as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Is like, I think the example that I'm thinking of that you're saying is on social media. Like, you know, people who are on social media and who follow or who watch or who read about, not even social media, just regular media, reading about fools, Mishlei fools, like it could appeal to your fantasies and you could like get that way of thinking in your head. I mean, we're seeing this playing out on college campuses now in terms of like just being in an environment where people are espousing insane ideas that can like infect your mind, and your behavior. Okay. And just one more thing to polish it off here. Why do you think it uses this language of will be broken or shattered? I mean, you could answer it just stylistically and say that it's a pun, which it is, roe and yeroa, but like, why use such a dramatic language? Yeah, Ayala?
I was gonna say maybe because whereas like adding chachma or whatever is like you start out in a neutral state and then you're growing.
Yeah.
Not only will hanging out with fools just like keep you at the neutral state, but it'll like ruin your attachment to truth and like bring you lower and like break you in that way.
Okay, it's interesting. I thought you were going to go in a different direction. I like what you're saying, but let me just strengthen the question here, which is yeroa, broken, or especially if you're going to go with shattered. Shattered implies a sudden total smash. Yechkam, it's not like, I don't even know what word that would be. It's not like parallel here, So I think what I would say here is the reason why the results are phrased this way is because with chachamim, the development is gradual, but solid. You eventually become a chacham, okay? But with a ksiel, it's true that you can become a ksiel, but what might happen is you become suddenly undone by a single instance of bad decision making. Okay, like it could be a shattering.
Can I add, or maybe a little differently than the last thing you said? I would say that maybe because maybe you may not necessarily realize at the moment, that like hanging out with the ksiel will affect you.
Mm-hmm.
You may not necessarily you may not necessarily do a decision that will just shatter you in the moment, but like I think it's maybe it's through constantly being around and like one day you'll just wake up like being like, what the heck did I do with my life just because I tied myself down to them. It's almost like that sudden realization that your life was shattered through this ongoing lifestyle.
Okay. Good. I think that's another good one. I have another interpretation also, is you might not even become a ksiel, but because you're hanging out with him, you can still be prone to their consequences, right? So in other words, let's say you're hanging out with people who like party and drive drunk, and you're not influenced by them, but because you're hanging out with them, you might get into an accident or something like that. Like it might affect you like that. Okay, all right, good. So this is an example, by the way. I remember I think Ayala and Rivki, I think at certain times both of you have asked me, like, what happens if you're learning Mishlei and like you just come up with ideas that sound cliche, like what are you supposed to do? And so this I think is a good model of, I don't know about you, I feel like it started off sounding cliche, but like by talking it out, you're really getting the details of it and it's becoming real to you, and like you get the nuances. So it's still worth like fully exploring that. Okay, good. So now we're Yotze having the obvious idea. Okay. Rivki, what's the creative, amazing idea that you're going to share? No, go ahead. Yeah.
So mine is it's on translation 2, I
Okay,
think.
good.
More than one, so
Okay.
it will be different, I think.
Okay.
So I was really concentrating on like specifically leading versus walking after.
Yeah.
And I think where the chiddush comes in is that I think it's just like human nature that a lot of people, not everyone necessarily, but a lot of people think that it's just better automatically to like be in a leadership position and to like, I guess, influence people in that type of way. And I think that's where the mistake is, that it's much better to associate yourself with people that are chachamim and that you might be quote unquote under in whatever like way, shape, or form you want to say, whether it's you can still be like above them technically in a position, but if their midos are better than you or whatever it is, then they're not technically leading them, they're leading themselves. So I think that's really where the mistake is that it's much better to be in a situation where if you're not already a chacham, and even if you are a chacham, you can still follow other chachamim that are like quote unquote greater than you. So that's like the basis of the idea.
Okay, so let me support you with Rבינו Yona, because that's what he says, but I also want to develop this a little bit. So Rבינו Yona says, oh, you know what? It's funny. So, okay, while we're here, Metzudas David says like Ariel, but again, in classic Metzudas David concise style, Yachkam is ki yalamin mehem, he will learn from them. Veroeh, one who befriends, hamachaber atma l'ksilim lios lo l'reim, he befriends Mishlei fools, making himself a friend to them. Yeshubor v'yerutzatz, he will be broken and shattered imahim with them. Ki yilmod mehem ugumulu yashitlo, he'll learn from them, and then his retribution will be paid to him. Again, I think that's just a concise way of saying what we said. Then Rבינו Yona says like Rivki, holech es chachamim yachkam, one who follows the wise, sheholech imahim v'naseh ketfela lahem, he walks with them and becomes secondary, subordinate to them. Yachkam, he will become wise. V'roe ksilim, but one who shepherds fools, okay, which means shenase l'rosh, he makes himself their leader. Kolashon, as it says in Yirmiyahu, v'nasati lahem roim kilibi v'ra'u eschem. Okay, that's just a linguistic proof. Yeroa, he will become shattered, like it says in Daniel. Tidayek v'teroa. V'chein Amrizal, I don't know if anyone was thinking about this in Pirkei Avos. Hevi zanav la'rayos v'altihi rosh la'shualim. Chazal say you should be the tail of lions and not the head of foxes. Okay, which is a similar idea. Yeah, Avital.
I was gonna kind of say like a very similar idea,
Sure,
and I was
go ahead.
trying to remember exactly what the like quote from that was.
Yeah.
But just like I guess example is like sometimes like let's say like I felt that when I used to rock climb a bunch,
Yeah.
and there's something fun about like going with a group of people that like it's their first time, besides like seeing it like fresh eyes all over again, but like there's something like exciting. They're like, oh, go do that one, show us how to do this one. Like there's something exciting about it, but at the end of the day, like you're really growing when you go with people who are doing much higher climbing levels, and you like gain so much more. And like I can't touch the stuff that they're doing, but even just like literally like walk, like being by their heels, like literally watching them, like you gain like beta or whatever it is that like just to learn little things how to do it.
Okay, good. So you're answering one of the two questions that I was going to ask to further develop Rivki's idea. One question was why? Okay, that's the question you're answering. Okay, and then question 2 is why, like what exactly makes, maybe you're answering both questions, I can tell, but what exactly makes us want to be a leader of fools rather than a follower of chachamim? Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, so Avital's answers. So I'm just gonna answer both of them, okay, which is that it boils down to like, our ego feels good when we're the best, and everyone is looking up to us, and we have influence, and that brings us ego pleasure. Okay. However, so at best, this is going to hold you back from development, okay? Because you're not going to have a guide or a model to aspire to, and who will push you further, okay? So I think that's one of the reasons why it is bad to do this. But I think there's another reason why it could be bad to be the leader of Xilan, of fools. What would you say?
I mean, something I was just thinking about was also that I think even if you're not a Xiel, that the other idea that you're still going to get the negative consequences of whatever's happening, that you're leading them, and you're probably not even going to get the results that you want in whatever you're trying to achieve, because at the end of the day, you're working with Xilan.
Okay, so let's say, and worse, even if you're not a Xiel, you might be subject to the consequences they bring about. Okay, for example, David.
Just one thing to what Avital was saying, that I also think so far as a person being broken, then if you get too used to being the leader and being the best, it makes it almost impossible for you to then become a beginner again and then to learn once you've solidified yourself as being the top.
Okay, right. I'm gonna say that, and you can become stuck in a non-growth mode. Okay. Yeah, Avital.
Okay, one more analogy that I was just thinking of from what Rifki said
Yeah.
is in like Despicable Me, when Gru's trying to like, he's got all his minions who are like these ridiculous things, like they're always getting him into trouble, and it's like almost like having a bunch of hooligans. Like, great, he has 10 million of them and he's the leader, but like they're nuts and like they don't do anything that actually like ends up helping him ever.
Okay, good. So I actually am not familiar with Despicable Me. I mean, I know what a minion is, but I think you could point, I'm not going to name names, but I think you could point to certain areas in politics, and you can see that, let's say, I don't care which area of politics you talk about. Okay, I think we can agree that at this point there are insane people everywhere in politics. There's insane extremists. Let's say you are actually a chacham, okay, but you position yourself to be a leader of this insane group, okay? They could drag you into things that like you get consequences for, like I will give an example. Okay. Let's say that, and again, I'm not taking a stance on whether this is the case or not. Let's say that, that Trump did not incite the January 6th Capitol Hill, whatever you call it, storming of the Capitol, right? Let's say he didn't. In point in fact, because he is the leader of these insane people, he got the fallout of that, So that's like a bad thing. But then at worst, the Xilim will drag you down to their level, okay? And you'll become like them, okay? It is similar to in Ariel's idea where like you're going to become influenced by them. But I do think that there's a unique kind of danger where like, you see this a lot, and this is not exactly Mishlei fools, but you see this with people who are creative and whether it's in art or whether it's in intellectual things, people who like are real original thinkers, but then they pander to the crowd and just do what satisfies the average people. They end up compromising their own values and just becoming like a copy of everything else, like happens to YouTubers a lot, so yeah. Okay, that's good. All right, anyone want to add to this approach? I think this is a good approach. Yeah, Rifki?
Yeah, I just wanted to add also that like just specifically more, I guess, like parts of what I was thinking was, and I said this actually in the other, when Ariel was saying his idea, that I think like the walking implies like following like in every circumstance. So I think it is different than what Ariel and what you were saying, because I think you guys were just saying like seeing them in like normal circumstances, but I'm saying like specifically making sure that you see them in like all circumstances, because that's what like walking after implies.
Okay, right. Okay, so according to this, walking after would imply like following them in, as much as you can and as constantly as you can. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to point out one subtle thing here with the Rבינו Yona. I think this language he uses of you become subordinate to them is like the practical decision making implementation of this is you have to be willing to say like I am going to like accept my position as being not the best. Like I'm gonna take a step down and like be at the bottom, and like it is a humbling position, and you do have to know yourself though about like again, like everything in Mishlei, this is not a rule that you must follow in every case. This is a decision-making tool in your arsenal, like I'll give you a counter example of this. When I was in yeshiva, then there's Rabbi Man shiur, which was the low shiur, then Rav Pesach shiur, which was the middle shiur, and then the Rosh Yeshiva shiur, Rebbe shiur. And I repeated twice. Rav Pesach kicked me up from the middle shiur into the top shiur, and then after a while, I kicked myself back. And the reason, one of the reasons why, there were several reasons why, but one of the reasons why was because I learned about myself that part of my lo lishma, like part of my my motive for learning, was if I was in Rav Pesach shiur and I was at the top of the shiur, I knew that I had to have this responsibility of knowing everything perfectly, and other people would ask me like to explain stuff or to like for guidance, and it put me in this leadership position where I had to like rise to the position of leadership. But when I was in the Rosh Yeshiva shiur, I was at the very bottom, and not only could I not follow the shiur, but like there was nothing. It was I was too secondary, and there was nothing pushing me in terms of my personality. That same motive wasn't there. So like you have to take this with a grain of salt. Like similarly, like there are many times where Chazal say you should hate positions of leadership, but clearly they also say in places where there are no leaders, you should strive to be a leader. So like you got to know when to apply this. But just this is again, this is a tool in your toolkit. Okay, next is my dad.
So my comments on shattered and broken.
Yeah.
You have to tell me if I'm reading something into the pasuk that's not there.
Okay.
Okay. The idea of shattered and broken is that we're talking about the consequences of being with the Kasil.
Mhm.
And by saying they're shattered and broken, the consequences are unmistakable.
Okay.
That this is not just a bad break. This is something that's it's unmistakable. It's observed by others. If you're broken and shattered, other people will see it. It's not like you'll just feel bad, but it'll be obvious to other people.
Okay. I think that's really good. And I think that pairs best with Rivki's idea, because we said that one of the reasons why a person wants to be in a leadership position is to feel like they're on top of things. But if you get broken, then now you're at the bottom. Like people realize that you're it's a mishleic mida keneged mida. It's a mishleic.
It's unmistakable. The consequences are unmistakable.
Right. People will identify you as that way. Yeah. Okay, that's good. I like that. Okay, Ariel?
Yeah, I was just gonna like maybe like add on to a little bit of what Rivki's idea was, but more in the sense of like like the decision making process of like why one would lead a Ksilim.
Yeah.
It's possible that like I know like like there is a method to like hiring people, and long story short, like a bad hire, some people would hire someone just because like they just need help right away, and like they fail to recognize that sometimes there is such thing as a bad hire, and like you only hire them because you need that immediate someone to save you for leverage or whatever, but No, but there is a methodology, and sometimes it's worth to just, sacrifice your time for that right hire,
Okay, yeah, that's
but
yeah. So I'm going to say someone might get themselves into the situation in the second half as an employer who makes a bad hire out of desperation, right? But the pasuk would say that it's it's better to to wait until the right person comes along. Yeah, the only thing I would say is I think this is a good like secondary application of the pasuk, but the pasuk is really talking to someone who is faced with a decision. I can be a follower to chachamim, or I can be a leader to fools. The hiring situation is you are already in a leadership position, and your decision is to take on someone who's like a fool, or to not take them on. So I don't think it's like direct.
meaning like you're already in that situation.
Yeah, in other words, your decision is not between do I follow or do I lead. Yours is do I get a bad employee or do I get a better employee and wait?
Right, but the real question is whether or not you lead them or follow them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a
Meaning
good
by choice? By choice?
Yeah, by choice. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, your point is a good Mishlei point, but I don't think it. The more I think about it, I don't think it has to do with the pasuk. Okay. All right. Anyone have any other ideas they want to say before we look at some more meforshim? This is good. This is what I was hoping for. These are good ideas. Okay, I have one source that I don't usually quote, okay, which is Midrash Mishlei. I don't even know who wrote it, but this is a good idea. So Midrash Mishlei says like this. Oh, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? Hold on. I'm going to only reveal part of this, okay? So he says, Mashal Lamisha Nichnas Bechanuso Shel Bosem. This may be compared to someone who enters into a perfumery. Afal pi she'eno mocher lo, even though he doesn't sell, he doesn't buy anything from it. Hu yote v'recho note. When he leaves, the aroma will accompany him, right? So you pick up on the aroma of the perfumery. V'reach begadav muvusamim, and his garments will have a pleasant aroma. Ve'in recho zaz mimenu kol yom, and the aroma will not depart from him all day long. Okay. And then one who associates with fools will become broken. This may be compared to someone who enters a tannery. And now, for those who don't know, tanneries were these disgusting places where, nowadays we use chemicals. Then they had to use like feces and like, they were like entrails. And it was like this nasty, like the most unsanitary job ever. Worse than like a garbage disposal, garbage whatever person. All right. So what is that? Even though he doesn't sell or buy anything from it, huyote, when he leaves, his its stench will follow him, and his garments will be dirty. And his odor, its odor and the odor of his garments will not leave him all day long. Now, if we stop there and we don't read the rest of what it says, that's the mushal. So what would you say? What do you predict the Midrash is going to say that the nimshal is? Like, what is the idea of the perfume tannery analogy?
That your environment has a consequence.
Right. Okay. You would think that it means that the environment has a consequence. Okay. So this is why I like this. Is it took it in a surprising direction. It says, the kach, so to kol mishu mahalach im chacham, anyone who walks with a chacham, kol mishu roy oso, anyone who sees him will say, Omer will say, ilule lo haya ze chacham, lo haya holach im chacham kamoso. If this person were not a chacham, he wouldn't be hanging out with a chacham. Okay. The v'chol mishu holach im ksiel, and anyone who walks with a fool, misha roy oso omer, someone who sees him will say, ilule shu ksiel lo haya holach im ksiel. If this guy weren't a fool, he wouldn't be walking with a fool. Okay. So in other words, it's not saying, like Ariel's idea, that the chachamim's good qualities will rub off on you, just like perfume rubs off on you, and the ksiel's bad qualities will rub off on you. It's saying that regardless of your qualities, if you're hanging out with a chacham, people will assume you're a chacham, and if you were walking with a fool, people will assume you're a fool. So I think that's like a really interesting. It's a really interesting idea. So let me just summarize that here. So this is Midrash Mishlei, Midrash Mishlei, which is, this isn't about being influenced by the people you hang out with. Rather, it's about how you will be viewed by others. If you hang out with Chachamim, people will assume you're a Chacham. And if you hang out with Ksilim, people will assume you're a Ksil. So now the question is, so what? Right? What is the practical application? What would you say? Yeah, Ariel?
Well, I mean, the so what is that it puts more, meaning you would live up to your what people say about you.
Okay, so you can definitely take that approach. I think that is a good one, which is that that once people tend to live up to or live down to, that's not a phrase, the way that others view them.
Isn't there like a Rashi on that with Aaron Cohen where he would like?
You're right. Yeah, I can find
Yeah.
it, I think.
Yeah.
This is on the Mishnah in Avos of Rodiv Shalom, Rodiv Shalom. I mean, I don't know where you're thinking, but I think this is the same source. Let me find it. Okay, I don't know what parak in Avos it's in, but I know it's in Avos.
Like you tell a Russia, oh, you're a tzaddik, you're a good guy.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not in 4. I know it's not in 3 because we didn't do it. Is it in 2? No. Is it in 1? Yes. Okay, so someone's going to bring it down. Yeah. Yona's got to bring it down. No. Okay, let's see if it's one. Yeah, so this is the Mברtnorã brings it down. I don't know what the original source is. So the Mishnah is in Avos 112 in this count. Hillel v'shamai kivlu mehem. Hillel omer hevi min timinuv Aaron. Be among the disciples of Aaron. Ohev shalom v'rodev shalom. Love peace and pursue peace. Ohev es habrios u'makarven l'Torah. Love people and bring them close to Torah. So Mברtnorã says Pirshu ba'avos d'Rabbi. There you go. There's the source. It says in Avos d'Rabbi, which is the brisa on Avos. Ketzad haya Aaron ohev shalom. How did Aaron love shalom? Keshaya roesh shnei bnei adam miskotedim. When he saw two people quarreling, haya holich l'chol echad mehem shalom midas chavero. He would approach each of them without the knowledge of his fellow. V'omer lo, and he would say, Re'eh chaverecha echu mischaret u'makeh es atmo al shechat alach. Look at your friend, how much he regrets this, and he's like, he's pained. His conscience pains him for sinning against you. V'amar li she'avo elecha shetimcholo, and he told me to he said to me, I want to come to you so that you forgive me. And we told kach shayu pogim b'zeh b'zeh hayumanach b'zeh b'zeh. So that's not the one we wanted. The ketzad haya makarv es habrios l'Torah. How would he bring people close to Torah? Keshaya yodea ba'adam she'avar avera. When Aaron knew that someone did an avera, haya mischaber imo, he would befriend him. Umar lo panim tzuhubos, and he would show him panim tzuhubos. Is that sad face or happy face? He would show them a shining face. Yeah, happy face, right? V'haya oso adam misbayesh, and that guy would be embarrassed. And he would say, Ilo hayodeh tzadik zeh masai harayim kama haya misrachek mimeni. If this tzadik knew my bad actions, how much would he distance himself from me? Mitoch kach. And then that would motivate him to do tshuva. That would motivate him to become better. So he would like live up to his potential. So if people view you as a chacham, you'll live up to your potential, and the same is true in the opposite. And I think the real world application I'm most familiar with, this happened all the time in Shalhevet, is we had honors classes and grade level classes, and sometimes there'd be a kid in between, okay, either intellectually or behaviorally. Like sometimes you'd have a case where like the honors kids were good and there was a bad group in the grade level kids, and we knew that if this kid who was in the middle was put in the honors class, they would rise to the occasion and become better. But if we allowed them to be in the lower level class, they would become associated with those people, and then everyone would assume that they're on a lower level, and then that would like bring them down. So I thought this was a good interpretation. Okay, Isaiah.
I was going to say like a different practical application for this idea.
Yeah.
Which would be maybe like just simply you could use the way that people think about you, or like you could use who you associate with to change how people think about you. Not so much that it'll change you as a person, but just like if you start
that's also good.
Him, like you can change your reputation that way.
Okay, good. 100 as to promote your own growth. So alternatively, this is giving you a strategy to change other people's perception of you, not even for your own development, but just for the benefits or to avoid the consequences, right? I think it's easier to see in the consequences for the seal. Like if you are not a bad kid, but you hang out with bad kids, you're gonna get in trouble a lot because people are gonna assume that like you're involved in their troublemaking. Yeah. Okay. Good. Let's do one of the meforshim. I mean, we've already done three. All right. Let's do the Meiri just makes one point that I just want to highlight. I don't even want to do this whole thing. He says, Gamzo he'ara kolelis. This is a general piece of advice. Hein bahamonios, whether in everyday matters, hein bahanhagios, or in conduct, hein batorios, or in Torah development, hein be'iunios, or in intellectual development. So he says that this principle applies across the board, and I think that resonates with that is consistent with what we said. And then he says, like Rבינו Yona, for one of them. Yeah, okay, fine. Let's just do one more. Let's do the Mlbi, just because I haven't read him yet. And he usually has good stuff. Okay, so let's see. Mlbi. It's the wrong font. Okay, Mlbi says, "Haholech es chachamim, one who walks with the wise, yilman mimaseim umechachmasam, will learn from their actions and their wisdom. And will act in accordance with the principles of wisdom. And one who befriends fools, yishaber, will be broken. Ki yilman mehem lirdof es achar taiva, because he will learn from them to chase after lusts. V'hem yilamdu oso, and they will teach him ha'iveles, foolishness, v'lo yeda michukei chachma klal, and he will not know anything of the principles of chachma. That's another point which we didn't really highlight. That it's very difficult to do both. You're going to have a primary social group, and the two lifestyles are diametrically opposed. So one of them is going to win out. And again, I've seen this. I've seen this over the years in yeshiva. Like, there are people who are torn between the lifestyle of like chachma and learning, and then between whatever other lifestyle appeals to them, and they try to have it both ways, but you really can't. One side will win out, and usually it's going to be the foolish side. And it says walking with the wise and associating with fools. She'im hachachamim lo haya lo yihye rea lahem techef rak yelech achreim, because with the wise he won't immediately be a friend of theirs, but rather he will walk after them. V'maksilim yihye rea techef. That's interesting. But with fools, he will be an instant friend. Shachachma kasha lilmod, because wisdom is difficult to learn. Lochein haksilos, but not foolishness. But not foolishness. Gam yish lefaresh roxim inyan roe uman higam Hagam Shiyadameshu Roy Omani Gosam Basof Yeroa. All right, so then he says like Rבינו Yona. So this is a new point here also, which is I'm just gonna add just gonna summarize this here. So Malbim's additional points. So number one, these are mutually exclusive paths. Either you should follow the chachamim and totally avoid the ksilim, or else you will get caught up in the ksilim and end up totally avoiding the chachamim. Okay, and it's not just because not just because they will draw you in, but also because the chachamim will avoid you. Okay, and distance themselves. Because they know this pasuk. Okay, so that's one new point. But then I think another sharp point he's making here is it takes time to cultivate a relationship with a chacham and to benefit from them. But the ksil friendship can happen instantaneously because it's based on a base common denominator. Okay, so you will have to trade that instant friendship for something that is worth much more, even if it takes a longer time. Yeah, that's an important thing to do, especially if you're in a situation where you're lonely, where you're new to the environment, you don't know anyone. It is going to be very tempting to be with people who instantly accept you. But if those people are not quality people and they're going to pose this problem, then that's going to be bad for you. So better to hang out with, people who are not going to become as quick friends, but it'll be a more substantive friendship. And if you need tips on that, learn Avos 1:6, is it? Of K'nei L'cha Chaver. 1:6. K'nei L'cha Chaver. That'll tell you how to win friends and influence people. Well, or not influence people, but yeah. Okay. All right. I think this is a good haul here. All right. So let's review our ideas. So we had idea number one, the Pshat idea, which is also Metzudas David, which is also Ariel, which is also Meiri, which is also Malbim, which is, and Rambam, and Chazal, which is if you are shaped by the people you hang around with, and merely walking with Chachamim, not even learning from them, it will rub off on you, and over time you'll become a Chacham. Whereas any association with fools will put you at risk, not only for becoming a fool, but becoming broken, either because you become a fool and you make bad decisions and those break you, or you get caught up in their consequences and that breaks you, or because you just realize you wasted all that time. And so that is urging you, reminding you about the importance of social dynamics and urging you to like establish these minimal connections with Chachamim because it'll pay off, and to avoid associating with fools at any cost. Then there's Rivki's idea and Rבינו Yona's idea and everyone's second idea, which is that it's about leadership, and better to make yourself subordinate to Chachamim than to be in a leadership position for fools. So even though you're going to have to give up your ego pleasure, you're going to benefit more because that relationship is going to force you to grow. Whereas if you are a leader to fools, you're going to at best be stagnant, and you're not going to be forced to grow. But at worst, even worse, it's going to you're going to be subject to the consequences that the foolish mob that you're leading brings about. And at absolute worst, then you're going to become like them and you're going to make those bad decisions. And then my dad's point was that the breaking that happens is going to be observable to everyone. So if ego is what's drawing you into this decision, you should know you're going to get hit in your ego when you get broken. Midrash Mishlei is saying that people will define you or make assumptions about you based on the crowd you hang out with. So if you hang out with Chachamim, people will assume you're a Chacham, and if you hang out with Ksilim, people will assume you're Ksil, and that assumption could be a tool either for other goals, like Isaiah was saying, or for your own development, that you're going to rise to the occasion to live up to that assumption that people are making about you to be a chacham. Or if people are making these bad assumptions, then you're not going to have anything to live up to, or you're going to like conform. If people look at you as a troublemaker, you're going to end up like becoming a troublemaker in that way. And then the Malbim added these couple points here, which is that this is being portrayed as a crossroads because you're going to be with one crowd or the other. I think that also might answer the question, Ayala's question about why it's plural. That there's two groups that you're going to be defined by. It's not just like I can be friends with this chacham and that ksiel. Like you're going to be drawn into the world of chachamim and the world of ksilim, typically. And the Malbim is saying that Yeroa is ro'eh implies instant friendship, whereas holech is a slow, gradual process. And so you have to be willing to defer gratification and not leap at the opportunity for instant friendship because this relationship is going to be better for you in the long run. Okay, very nice. All right, Bli Neder. Next week we will continue. Thanks for coming, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
I was just wondering what I don't know if you said it and I just missed it, but like what your ideas were in the class.
I basically taught Ariel's idea and your idea, and
Okay.
and Midrash Mishlei. Yeah, I think those are the three. But again, it's like it's developing it and talking about it and seeing examples. I think we really get the ideas, and I think it is a practical chiddush. I think that there are people who like. There are so many applications of this. For example, in Ariel's idea about just associating with chachamim, in my early years in yeshiva, Rabbi Chait used to give a Sunday shiur for the whole community, and some of these Sunday shiurim were very, very like abstract ideas, and I used to wonder, like, if I'm not getting it, is there a benefit of me being in shiur, or should I go do something else? And so I came up with a whole list of like benefits of why I should stay in a shiur even if I don't understand anything. And this was one of the benefits: is I get to watch chachamim. And pick up on how they respond to questions, how they take, like if a chacham says something he thinks is a good idea and he gets shot down, like how he takes that, and so, or let's say like, this actually is more of a, this applies, in Shalhevet, this wasn't really the case because I wasn't really in a position to like, I didn't hang out with my students, But when I came to teach at YBT and I'm living in the community and like, going to Shabbos meals with them or having them over, or at Nija when I'm hosting like Magic the Gathering events, I am putting myself in a position where I'm giving my students an opportunity to hang out with me. And there are benefits that you get from like learning from stuff. Just, again, I'm not saying like I'm a tzaddik or anything like that, but like just learning and picking up on things from the informal context. I mean, this from NCSY, right? Like the informal context of hanging out with people who are good influence. Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think that's another application. And I think like just talking about the category of Holech HaChachamim opens your mind to the fact that it's not just about going to shiur or not going to shiur. Like there's many other ways to associate with Chachamim and with fools. I mean, like Ariel said, like, even or like I said, like even social media, like, or like having a coworker who's like a ksiel, like it's a danger zone if you hang out with them.
Yeah, this is a great pasuk. I was
Good.
very happy.
I like it. I also think it's a good starter pasuk, which I'm always on the lookout for. If you're starting off people with Mishlei, I think the opposites, it's clearly opposites, but not quite congruous, and you've got enough like nuances in the language that people can ask questions and like it's very relatable, so I think it's a good pasuk to start off with. Yeah.
Also, this is not related, and
Sure.
I was like, maybe I just shouldn't say anything because it's like very not concrete at all.
Yeah.
But MJE? I don't know. I never heard of it.
Yeah, I know MJE. Yeah.
Everyone but me knew about it. I didn't know about it.
Yeah, because it started. I don't know if it started by or I don't know. I mean, Rabbi Penny Rosenthal, who went to Northwest Yeshiva High School, went to my yeshiva, taught a bunch of my friends. So he's I think he's still involved with it. He was for many years.
I know. I heard the name like when I was talking, but so the Rabbi Wilds.
Yeah, I know. I've met him once, I think.
So he called me, and I
Yeah.
guess like
Oh, should
one
this be
of-
recorded?
Oh my God, no.
Okay,
Sorry.
fine. So let me stop the recording.
Sorry about that. That's
Okay,
very
hold on.